And we are live. Here we are. Good morning, everybody. We are a little bit late, but we're better than ever. But that's okay because we don't care. We're here. Here we are. It's day finale here. Real Estate Talk, TGIF, episode 265. We've been rocking and rolling for 262 weeks in a row. That's over 5 years. And I have a special friend, a special guest with me, Michelle Berman Michael, who is the creator and founder of Beyond the Method, having to do with anything you need to know about really promoting yourself and getting business through social media, but basically mostly Instagram. Hello, Michelle. How are you today?
Hi, guys. I'm Dave. I'm so excited to be here. In general, everyone, I apologize for my tardiness, but we're here. We made it, and let's do it.
Okay, so let's get started. But first, the video. Real estate agents, are you looking to acquire clients consistently to grow your business and income for a great lifestyle? Well, this is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Modern Agent team. Good morning, everybody. As I said, this is Real Estate Talk TGIF number 265. And Michelle, before we get started and having a great conversation, I have to ask one question I ask everybody that joins the program. What does TGIF stand for?
Thank God it's Friday.
You are so close. You know what? You're just so close. I just hate to tell you you're wrong because I love you so much, but it's thank God it's finale. Sorry, that's just the way it is.
My gosh, I love it.
And I think you may have known that, but anyway.
I did, yeah.
So, Michelle, this is your second time on a broadcast, and so many things have happened over the last couple of years when you were on before. Truth be told, you and I have known each other. You've coached me and still coach me and still help me. I still work with you and your team, which is one of the greatest experiences of my career, having worked with some great people that really care about what they're doing and how they're doing it. But first, Michelle, talk to me about how you got to where you are today. I mean, also, truth be told, we do have a commonality. We both went to the same great university. So
we sure did. So a few years apart, but we sure did.
Yeah, just a few. Anyway, what's your path, Michelle?
Yeah, my path is super unique and it's super fun to talk about. And I think sometimes in the moment you don't realize like how you ended up where you ended up, and then you kind of self-reflect and you realize, yeah, that's exactly how if you would have asked me, I never would have guessed that's how it would have ended. But I actually went to Rutgers alongside you, Dave, a few years later, graduated in 2012 with an undergrad degree in journalism and psychology. And I ended up at Rutgers because I was actually swimming competitively and swam competitively most of my entire life. Started at the age of 4, swam all through high school and was recruited by 7 or 8 different universities. I didn't want to stay on the West Coast. I knew I didn't want to. So all my recruiting trips were actually on the East Coast. So I ended up at Rutgers and knew that I was going to end up there the moment I got off the airplane. I remember texting my dad and saying, like, even if they don't offer me a scholarship, like, I'm going to school here. This is where I am supposed to be. And fast forward, all 4 years I swam for them. Incredible experience. Definitely not easy swimming at that level while also having a double major and a minor all at the same time and trying to have some semblance of a social life alongside that. And graduated in 2012. Journalism and psychology was my dual major. And the thought process behind it for me was I really wanted to write a book, and still to this day, and really that's a huge passion of mine. And I knew that if I was going to write a book, I had to understand why and how people operate, right? Like the why behind the decisions that people make. So if I understand the why, then I can write about them. Or write about it. So fast forward, I graduated in 2012, went to grad school, got my master's degree in social media public relations, which at the time was a super unique degree. Most people had really never even heard of such a thing. And I really face planted into corporate America, just like everybody else, right? When you graduate from college, ended up at a PR firm and absolutely hated it. The public relations firm that I was working for, every piece of content they produced for every client was identical to the other, regardless of the industry, regardless of the price point that they had paid. It really didn't matter. And so it felt like, and you mentioned the word relationships at the very beginning of this, like there was none, right? Like the clients were basically just a number on a spreadsheet, and that didn't sit well with me. So at 24, I quit. I walked into my boss's office and I said, absolutely not. Am I doing this anymore? And I immediately incorporated my name, Berman Media PD, into my own company. Started going door to door to local businesses in the area that I was in and said, hey, I'm super young and I really don't have any idea what I'm doing, but if you pay me $500 a month, I'll do all your social media and we'll just figure it out together. And I ended up with 7 clients in a week. So I was actually making more money after that than I was on a monthly basis in my corporate job. And it just kind of grew from there. I ended up buying and selling Instagram accounts and flipping them like you'd flip real estate throughout that process. And long story short, if you push it all into one kind of small message, if you will, or concise message, the thought process for me was, as I was experiencing doing this for other people, I just got really, really good at understanding what kind of content actually matters, what kind of content falls on deaf ears. Right. Ultimately, how to get somebody to take their credit card or debit card out of their wallet and purchase something. And then I just also got very good at smelling out bullcrap, right? So fake views, fake likes, fake anything. And Dave, I think I actually called you out on that when we first met, because there was a gentleman that was helping you that was sending fake reviews or fake video views to your content. And you were like, why am I getting so many views, but nothing's happening? And so you actually experienced the transformation of what my company really does. But we teach realtors and we teach loan officers how to psychologically tap into the brains of the clients that are consuming their content and convert them into business. So there's a lot that goes into that, and a lot of history into all of the things that ended up creating who I am today. But yeah, that's the fast story.
You know, Michelle, there's what I've learned from you and your people over the past couple of years is, you know, there's social media, and just like you said, to you input yourself into the stream, and that's the way I'm going to look at it and say it, is you input yourself into their lives of the people by asking the right questions. It's all about questions. It's all about getting people to communicate with you. And what's interesting, what I find a lot, is that a lot of people just there's 3 types of people on social. Ones that post, ones that comment, and one that post and get involved, right? The ones that post never see your comments. All they're doing is worried about themselves, right? The other one are the ones that, you know, they're consistently commenting on stuff, or all they do is scroll through and see stuff. And it's informational. Nothing wrong with that, unless they want something out of business for it. And the other one is actually what we do is we're not only posting consistently with great relational, relevant content, but we're also engaging with people. And by engaging, we're talking about getting involved in, let's say, their lives, let's say their posts, let's say what we're doing and how we're getting involved with it. And that's how we're getting business out of it. Did I put that in the right way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's all about the active prospecting, I think, is a good way of describing it. Right. And that's a huge part of what we do. So I think social media for the longest time, and not to throw shame anywhere in any direction, because I think everybody serves their purpose and everybody has their people. But my people are certainly the ones who understand the value of actively prospecting, like, and seeing it as a viable lead source for themselves, right? And in order to create that opportunity for yourself, you have to be posting, you have to be engaging, and you actually have to be starting and initiating conversations with people that you don't know, right? And that's can be hard if you don't know where to start. And so I think, you experienced that, because I remember when we talked about it, you said, yeah, I'm commenting all the time. And yes, I'm always on Instagram and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And my first question to you was, are you waking up to a multitude of messages in your DMs of conversations that you need to continue or that need to be continued? And your answer was no.
Right.
And the reason the answer was no, which you are not unlike 99% of the population that's trying to do this, is if you want that type of engagement, you have to be giving it. And there's an art to that, right? There's sales psychology involved in this. There's certainly psychology as far as how people, or the psychology aspect of how people make decisions and how to turn conversations into business related type conversations. There's a knack that goes into that. And truth be told, honestly, I've just mastered it over the last several years.
So tell me, as an architect of one social media, right? And I think that's a great word and a great description of it. What's more important What's the most important thing, or is there a path where people should take in social media? And we can stick with Instagram if you like. That's fine. Is it how they set their account up? Is it their profile? Is it how they're posting? Is it what they're posting? Is it what everything looks like? What's the makeup of all of that?
Honestly, it's all of it. All of it matters, and all of it ties into one another. The aesthetic does matter. There's some things that go into that, and I'm going to keep using the word psychology because that's really the foundation of everything. But there's some psychology in how people perceive your content, right? So the perception, unfortunately, is reality in this case. And when you're talking about social media, you have a very, very short time span of can you capture someone's attention? And that is not long, right? We're talking seconds. So if I go and land on your profile and there's no apparent branding, there's no apparent style guide, if you will, or as far as the aesthetic is concerned, there's no apparent rhyme or reason for the type of content you're posting, right? So it's kind of a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's sort of all over the place. Right. And then also, this is another big one, is sizing, right? Like, is your content sized properly? If you're posting a reel, is it sized properly for Instagram? Are you posting a lifestyle image or just a camera roll photo? And is it sized properly for Instagram? So all of those things tie into one another. And the big important piece is your bio, right? Like, the bio is the gatekeeper to all of the rest of it. So visually, right, and that's the beauty behind Instagram specifically, is it's a visual platform, right? So your eyes are naturally drawn towards colors, images, and that's how, and I believe truly why Instagram has been such a powerful platform. But your bio is part of that. So visually it has to be on par. And then your bio is where someone's going to go. So you're going to suck them in with the visual, and then the bio is going to get them to continue or turn into the follower that you're after. And that bio notoriously has been about the person, right? I'm a mom. I love my coffee. I have 2 dogs, and I love my husband, and I love God. Like, that's what people will say, right? And it's like, that's not what goes in your bio, because not that those aren't great things. Those are all amazing. But that's not what is going to make someone actually consume your content and stick around, because at the end of the day, as selfish as it might sound, they're in it for them. Like, they want to know what can you do for them, and why should they stick around? So you need to have an I help statement, and it needs to be a very, very strong one. And the way I describe it is essentially a virtual handshake, right? So who do you help? How do you help? And what's the end result that you're generating or guaranteeing that you're offering to someone? And then the personal aspect of who you are and all of those other things, the mom, the wife, all those things, right? That gets shared in your content on your feed as your strategy plays out.
Are we striving with our accounts, Instagram? There are a couple of things I want to talk about, but one of the things is that, and this came up recently in one article I read or whatever, was that followers were the most important thing that you need to do. You need to build hundreds and thousands of followers, and you want people to hit that follow button, and you really shouldn't ever put in there the link in bio. That is, I read that this week, and I'm thinking, I got to ask Michelle that one. So talk to me about, there's 2 things there.
Yeah, followers don't mean anything. I mean, there's value in having eyeballs, obviously. That's part of how we grow and scale. And in order to generate the followers, right, you have to be doing what we were talking about. You have to be actively prospecting in a very structured and very intentional way. But the number of followers you have is in no way a direct correlation to the dollars in your bank account at all. 0. And that's really, really a big conversation. We could probably talk about that for an hour by itself, but easily. The number of followers you have does not correlate to the dollars in your bank account. I would say that again, because it's that important. What does matter is, are the followers that are consuming your content, one, are you engaging with them, right? And we can talk about that in a second, because there's a structure that goes into that. And then 2, are they the right ones? Are they in the right demographic? Are they in the right location? And are they the right people themselves, right? So if you look at my follower list, 97% of it, and I'm making that number up, but that's damn near, I would imagine, are realtors or active loan officers. They are people in the real estate and mortgage community, because those are the clients that I can generate business from. I don't want other social media people following me. I don't want other, famous people like from The Bachelor, Bachelorette following. Like, that's not what I'm on Instagram for. Like, that doesn't do me any good. And I also don't want to fake anything, right? So I've had conversations with several of our mutual friends. I'm not going to name names for the sake of privacy, but several very close friends of ours, both of ours mutual, who have purchased followers and have seen massive impacts in not a good way with their content, right? So much so that both of them have had to shut down their accounts and start new ones. And that ties into, your engagement is going to take a crap, if you will. I hope I can say that, but it's not going to do what you want it to do. And Instagram will be able to tell that that's happening on your account no matter what. So no matter how hard you engage, this is the key piece to this. No matter how hard you engage, if you've done that, if you've purchased fake anything, you could do 100 comments a day and do 20, 30, 40, 50 story replies a day, and it will not ultimately be good enough to combat that. Because Instagram will always essentially have you flagged as somebody who's done that. So really what it comes down to is it becomes a vanity metric, and it's designed to make you feel good, but it's not going to actually translate into dollars.
So basically what we're talking about, and really simple, to put it into a different perspective, or the same perspective, you just to say it, that we're looking for the people that we want to work with, the people we want to talk to. If you're on Instagram, look, a lot of people, I don't know what my social media presence would be if I wasn't in this business or wasn't in business. I don't know what it would be. I really don't. Who knows? I might not even be there. Who knows? But the thing is that if you're in this business or you're in a business, it's got to be the people. You have to be targeting the people that you want, like I'll use the phrase, your perfect client avatar, right? And those are the people you want to work with. And you talked about it had to be apparent what you are doing, right? That's what you just said a few minutes ago.
Yep.
Talk to me about what you mean by that. And it's a simple answer, I believe. So go ahead with that.
Yeah, it's a very simple answer. It's who do you specifically help? How do you help them? And what's the end result that you're generating for someone? So that's what we call an I help statement, also known as your virtual handshake, right? So if you were to go up to somebody and meet them at a party, and someone's like, oh, what do you do for a living? Like, you better have the most solid one sentence that you could ever dream of, because that's your one shot. And that's exactly what that bio is really about. And in that section there,
Right.
And who you help specifically is really, it ties into the avatar piece. And I love that you use that word, because that's really what it is. If you think about it in the form of connection, or you think about it in conversation aspect, we'll talk about it in this angle, because I think it'll make it really relevant for people. When it comes to prospecting, right, which is really what we need to be doing on social, is actively prospecting. If you're trying to prospect with people who you have zero connection with, or zero mutual, any form of anything with, those are going to be hard conversations, right? Like, if you hate golf, like absolutely have zero desire to ever swing a golf club or be on a golf course, why are you engaging or trying to engage with people that live on or want to live in golf courses? Like, why, right? Because those conversations, if you were to try to start them, they're going to be very, very hard. So the key is building that I help statement should tie into the conversations that you want to be having with the types of people that you want to be having conversations with, right? So I always use myself as an example, that if I decided tomorrow to go start selling real estate, who would I want to work with? And my primary client would definitely be fit Army wives. Like, I mean, that's as detailed as it can get. And why? Because I am one. I live in a military town, and I work out a lot, right? So the conversations for me, and I have a almost 2-year-old son. So these are conversations that are wildly easy. I could have a very easy conversation about lots of different things related to the military life, CrossFit community, fitness in general. My husband is a strength and conditioning coach for the military. So there's a lot of that goes into that, right? But the idea is, if I'm trying to start conversations on social, who are going to be the people that, one, I'm the most passionate about talking to, and two, who are the people that I'm going to have the easiest time connecting with, right? Why? Because connection leads to the like, know, and trust aspect of this. If I like you, if I feel connected to you, I'm more likely to ask you for advice. And that advice is most likely going to turn into an opportunity for business. And then that person, once they feel like they can trust you because of the like aspect and because they feel connected to you, they're more likely to hire you. And the key is when you get someone on the phone, from what we teach, right, from this active prospecting, it doesn't and shouldn't feel like a sales call ever, right? Because why? If you're going through all of the DMs and or the conversations you're having with that person in your DMs, you have all that connective. You have all those connective pieces. When you pick up the phone to talk to somebody, it's like, hey, yeah, it was so great to chat with you about XYZ, or like, I was so awesome to talk to you about CrossFit. I know you and I can talk about that forever. But do you have time next week on Wednesday to come meet me at this coffee shop? Right. So it's like you're focused on the connection first, and then you ask for the business in the connection. And so the person on the other side is way more likely to say yes to the actual ask if you focus on the connection first. And then secondly, after you ask, they're more likely to actually convert. Right. It's just science. It's the science of psychology and numbers kind of combined. You're going to convert higher, and you're just going to have a lot more of a investment, if you will, both emotionally and like actively in what you're doing.
So everybody who listens to this, I want you to rewind the last 10 minutes, and I want you to go through that because you've just gotten the method that you need to use in order to connect and convert. Okay. Those sound like words from another guy we know.
Yes.
But that is so very, very important, right? We talked about the I help statement, which is what you're talking about, which is it's actually your title, right? It's also in my opinion, it's also the theme for your content.
Absolutely.
However you're breaking it up. I mean, we're talking about, a series of videos. We're talking about what you're all about, your lifestyle. We're talking about other things, what people say about you. And there's a lot of different content that you're going to put out there, but that is really your content theme. And then, we talked about how we're not too worried about followers, worried about engagement, because what we really like to see is through your engagement, these people are going to follow up and take a look at you. That's where the I help statement comes in. That's where what everything looks like comes in. So it's a full circle. And don't worry if you send someone to your bio to connect with you, because that's where the ultimate occurs. Is that right? Did I put that in the right position there?
Yeah. I mean, if I were, my current bio obviously reflects who I am in our industry, in the real estate and mortgage space. But again, if I were to go decide tomorrow I'm going to go start selling real estate, like literally my I help statement would say, I'm a competitive CrossFitter turned real estate agent who's married to, the head strength and conditioning coach for Fort Campbell's 101st. Like that's who I am. And those are the people who I want to connect with. So I specialize in helping military families find homes who happen to really love fitness. And I'm okay with being that specific. And I think that's an important part.
So one of the things I want everybody to know is that I want to segue into something else here. And I want you to know that if you'd like to find out more about this, to talk to Michelle, I'm going to leave up the link to booking a call with Michelle now. And this way you can set the call up and you can move into this. And you said in the beginning, I'm going to leave that up for a little while. You said in the beginning, Michelle, that you wanted to write a book.
Yep.
Right. And you're working on some stuff now. And we had a conversation about this, and I'm really intrigued and really excited about what you're working on. Talk to us about your journey as you move forward with Beyond the Method and how you're helping people there and how you can start helping people in another way. Talk about that.
Yeah, so my passion has always been to write a book. And I've known from a very early age that I felt like I had something to say, but I didn't really know what it was, right? And for many, many years, that's how I felt. Lots of therapy and lots of, studying like why my brain does what it does and where my heart has led me in my life. And what I've really come to realize is that I live a very rebellious lifestyle, and not rebellious in a negative way, but rebellious in I just believe that trying to do it my own way and learning from my own way has actually created an incredible business. And so really the thought process behind all of this is I really want to be known as kind of the rebellious entrepreneur. And so there's some legs in there, and there's some thoughts that go into that. And I want to talk about what that means, and I know that you'll help me facilitate that. But more importantly, what does it mean to be rebellious? And I think that a lot of people can think of that as a negative thing, and can take that negatively, or in a negative light with, bad context. But for me, I see it as a really big positive, and I also see it as part of why I have grown so much since I started my company in 2014. Really in the last almost 4 years, I would say, every year, it's honestly wild how I've gotten here. And I really believe that the true word that is in my core is I'm a very, very gritty person by nature. And I'm also a very high D on the DISC profile, if anyone's familiar with that. So it makes me very passionate for lots of different things. It also means that I can be abrasive, right? Which just means that, like, I'm the type of person who I'm going to face plant and say, like, I might not know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then I'm going to try to just kind of figure it out as I go. And that couldn't be more true, not just in my own life, like personally, but also professionally.
Would you call that stubborn?
Oh, absolutely. Like, and I'm so confident in saying that, because that's just who I am. And I'm in love with who I am now at 33 years old, but it's taken me some time to get to that. But the best example I can give you guys, and why this is such a big passion project for me, and for those of you guys who are watching this or watch on the recording, like, this is the first time I'm talking about rebellious entrepreneurship publicly, right? And like how this even became part of who I am. And so I apologize if it's not coming out perfectly. I promise to work on the message, but I sat on stage a few months ago on a panel at a big social media conference, and I was a little bit nervous about the other gentlemen that were on the stage with me. I was the only female, which I'm not surprised. But I was on a panel with 3 other people, one of whom is Kyle Draper, who you and I, Dave, both love very much, along with a handful of other guys who all serve their own purposes in the social media space and had their own specialties. And a conversation came up about AI and ChatGPT and a lot of these other things that are really big in the marketplace right now. Everything is about, leveraging time and saving energy and saving money and all of these things, right? And saving, like, having to spend money on assistants because ChatGPT can do it, and you can do it in a third of the time, and yada, 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 right? And this whole conversation of, like, where does ChatGPT and AI in general, like, where is it designed to be in our business, right? And where is it designed to serve us? And I very publicly, in front of close to 150 people in the audience, said I do not agree with the use of ChatGPT or any form of AI in your prospecting on social media at all. Now, I didn't say I don't believe in using it for helping with back-end systems and things within your business, because we use it for those types of things all the time. And it does serve a purpose in certain aspects of what you're doing on social. But when it comes to your engagement and having conversations, because one of the gentlemen specialized in Facebook advertising, and another one specialized in TikTok advertising, which was really interesting. But both of them have said that because of ChatGPT and other things within AI, right, it was going to allow them to prospect on this, like, wildly scalable level. They were going to have all these automated systems to be able to facilitate conversations on their behalf, and yada, yada, yada. And I just can't stand that, right? And very vocally said, I don't believe that anybody could have a conversation with someone about what I do for a living or what someone would be buying if they decided to hire me better than I could, right? No one's more passionate about it than I am, right? Why? Because in my heart and in my life and in my brain are all of the stories and the examples and the feelings that go into how to connect with someone. A software system can't do that. So I would rather scale slower, which I don't think in any way my company scaled slowly. If you look at the numbers, it's pretty wild. But it's been, quote, slower than people want, right? Some people want to go from $1 million to $5 million in a year. I don't think that that's the right way to do it. And so long story short, I publicly declared that I didn't agree with doing so. And that same gentleman who I publicly disagreed with, very, very politely, and we had a fantastic conversation. He came up afterwards when the conference was over. We were all drinking at the bar, having fun. And he came up to me and he shook my hand and he said, "Thank you so much for disagreeing with me." And it reminded me why I do it and where rebellious entrepreneurship came from, because that facilitated a new friendship that I didn't have before that. It proceeded to facilitate a several-hour conversation until close to 2 a.m. With a handful of these other social media experts who were really open to listening to what I had to say. And vice versa. I was obviously very open to listening to them and seeing where the meeting or the mastermind could happen. But that's the beauty of it. By being rebellious and being, no, that's not what I'm not going to sit here and just go with the flow. It facilitated an incredible opportunity for both them and me. And that's what rebellious entrepreneurship really is all about.
I really relate to the rebellious part and rebellious entrepreneurship, because one of the things I look at as it is a mindset shift for me and stuff. It's a confidence shift. To me, what rebellious in the way we're talking about it here is all about confidence. That I'm going to put it bluntly out there. Don't give a shit about what anybody else says and what your opinion really is. And that's basically what it is. Just as a little aside to what you were saying and your quote unquote rebellious response on stage that time, I want to say that I agree with what you're saying. I also agree that you can't hire someone tens of thousands of miles away to do your prospecting for you. That's kind of what this comes down to a little bit, what you're talking about. And if anybody wants to tell me I'm wrong, please give me a call. I'm welcome to talk about that. But you can't do that. You have to do it yourself unless someone is in your head. Unless someone is in your head or they studied you, which is something I'm not going to get into, but I do know that it works really well with your company and how you run what you do and how your people do their job. They're amazing at what they do. When we talk about rebellious entrepreneurship, it's not necessarily being different, but it gives you the right to disagree with what is not in your mindset, right? Talk a little bit about the mindset of the rebellious entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's a hard one for me to articulate, and that's part of what I've been trying to work on so hard for the last little bit. The mindset of a rebellious entrepreneur is 2 things, maybe 3 things, but I'll try to get it to 2. We just operate differently. Like in our brains, we look at something as there is no back door here, right? Meaning I don't have a secondary option if something doesn't go well, right? So if something doesn't go well, I have one choice. I can stare at it and I can fix it and I can learn from my mistakes. Because there is no, I'll just go get a different job, or I'm just going to go ahead and fire all my employees and just go down to me because that way it's cheaper, right? Like that's not an option. And as an entrepreneur who's been in business now for almost 9 years, or 9 years in November. So yeah, we're almost there. I have 12 employees now, and those 12 girls, that's why I get out of bed every day, right? It's like I have to create an opportunity to serve them. I have to create income for us to serve them. And I have to create opportunity for myself personally to facilitate what I want my life to look like. Being a mom is very important to me. And being a very present mom is even more important. So I don't want to work 8 hours a day at all, right? So if I know that I don't want to work 8 hours a day, that means that I have to facilitate operations and systems behind that to give me that opportunity. So long story short, the mindset is, are you willing to do what nobody else really is willing to do? And more importantly, are you willing to look at it as there is no failure? It's simply a lesson to be learned from. And I think that's a really big mindset shift from people, because they think a lot of people are like, well, I failed, but at least I tried. Hell no, not at least I tried. Like that's not an option. Trying is never going to help you win a game. Trying is never going to help you win a race at a swim meet, right? Like you have to lean on all of your experience and do it, right? Like if there's ever been a race I haven't done well in, if there's ever been a part of business that I haven't done well on or well in, the only person I can talk to change that and to change the outcome of it the next time around is myself. And I think that that's a huge thing. A lot of people like to project and blame others for why they may or may not be successful. And don't get me wrong, there's been lots of people in my career who have attempted to do that to me. But I'm definitely not in the mindset of like, oh, I'm just going to let them win. Right.
Right.
One, my faith is far too strong, and my grittiness of just who I am as a person is far too strong.
How does fear and or doubt come into play with the rebellious mindset?
I think the more fearful you are, the better, right? Like you should be scared shitless of doing something. And I think the beautiful thing about that is, as scared as I have been over the years, and as scared as I still am some days, it's such fuel. And the fear creates thoughts in my mind that allow me to invest where I need to invest, right? I have had a very long time business coach by the name of Grant Wise, who you and I are both very good friends with. And Grant, if I'm ever in that moment of like, I'm having an imposter syndrome, or I'm jealous that so-and-so got the speaking gig and I didn't, right? I just pick up the phone and I call Grant, and he puts the fear of God into me, literally, of like, Michelle, why do you care about that? Like, why?
Right.
And I was just reading what Carl said. He said, remove the word try from your vocabulary. And it's so true. But where does fear play in? I think fear is really healthy. And I think the most important thing for me, when I started to feel the fear and when I have that creep up, two things have happened. One, I find the person that I can lean on, which for me is Grant. And then secondly, I spend money. Like, that sounds weird, but I literally spend money, right, on things that I need to help alleviate why I'm fearful. So it's like peeling back the onion of like, what are you actually afraid of? What are the things that are making you afraid? And going back to the very core of that and finding out why you really are, and serving that piece, because it will alleviate. Usually if you're like afraid of heights, right, for example, it's not that you're actually afraid of like being high up. There's something you're more afraid of than the height itself, right? Are you afraid of falling? Are you afraid of dying? Are you afraid of all these other things, right? So it's the pieces that lead to that actual act. And so that's what I've done. I've spent money there, and I've leaned on my coach.
So, all right. So I heard recently a great definition. It didn't come out like this, but it's the way I saw it. There you go. We don't want to remove the butterflies in your stomach. We just want them to fly in formation. I love that, Carl. Thank you so much.
That is fantastic.
And just quick shout out to Carl. Carl and I have known each other for about 20 years through the Century 21 system, and is a good old friend to have. And Carl's always been supportive of what I do, and I thank you, Carl, for that. I want to say what I look at. Someone said to me, or I heard, and this is the context I'm going to put it in, that one of the many definitions of a badass is that you're so scared of something, you do it. Mm-hmm. You're so fearful of something, you do it. You talked about heights, right? So if it's climbing a wall, climbing a rock wall, or whatever that could be, skiing for all that matter, right? You're afraid to do it, but you go out and do it. That gives you the fuel, as you mentioned earlier, the fuel and the definition of what a badass is. And I think being rebellious is something that can actually be, all right, you want to be a badass? You don't like making phone calls? Make 30 phone calls and 10 appointments today. That's what being a badass is going to be. Just to relate it back to what I do every day in the
absolutely.
Framework,
yeah.
Right? Because we're trying to give stuff back to our real estate and mortgage community by this broadcast. And hey, guys, if you're afraid to do something that someone's telling you that you need to do to build your business or to get that next buck, do it. Right? I mean, that's the way I look at it.
First of all, find out why you're afraid of it. What are you actually afraid of, right? And cold calling is a notorious example. in the real estate community, right? And mortgage community as a whole. A lot of you guys buy leads. That's just fact, right? Or you buy lists and you work off that. But if you, and I met somebody at a conference very recently who said he has owned his brokerage for many, many years. Most of his agents that are in his office are petrified of cold calling. And it's like, that's what he's known his whole career is cold calling, like, and door knocking, like these things that are cold bumps to people. And so he was really excited to bring me into the office as a recruiting tool, right? Because you're dealing with a generation of people who don't want to have to cold call. So how can I teach and how can I help facilitate doing the opposite of that, right? By focusing on connection first, then asking for business, and also being able to do it from behind your phone. But what I was going to say about that is with people who are afraid of cold calling, you're not actually afraid of picking up the phone and calling someone. You're afraid of somebody rejecting you when you do, or someone trying to make you look like an idiot, right? Because that's how it feels when you're cold calling. One thing I want to tie this back to quickly is the most successful people in the real estate and mortgage community, the top 5%. This is not my metric. This is like studied and put out there. But the top 5% of people in entrepreneurial businesses, right? And we'll use the real estate community and mortgage space and myself as three examples of that, are high DIs on the DISC profile. So that profile, if you don't know what it is, just Google it. It'll come up very quickly. But if you're a high DI, you're very persuasive, you're bold, you're results oriented, which obviously, right? But most importantly, we like to work fast, right? So we're the types of people who we want to get things done quickly. And if it's not getting done quickly, we're like, hey, why is this not happening? Like, I could do this faster, right? And that's what our brains tell us, because we're always looking for new opportunities. So if you feel like that's who you are, and cold calling feels hard, it's because it's a slow play, right? So cold calling in general is a slow play of taking the time to get through a list of 100 names, which is going to take you a while. Once you actually get someone to talk to you on the phone, getting them warmed up to be actually ready to either buy or sell or have an appointment with you, like all of this is a slow play, which is why Instagram is in my opinion, such an amazing opportunity, because you can expedite the touch point process 3 times, 4 times as fast as you could by having to follow up with someone on the phone, by making sure you remember to call them every 2 weeks. Right. And that's the beauty of stories and all these other things that the platform affords us.
You mentioned earlier, and we talked about this as well before the broadcast, we mentioned the phrase imposter syndrome, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of us in the positions that we're in, or whatever we're doing, even as an agent or a loan officer, sometimes it's like, okay, well, I'm doing this, and am I even good enough to do this, or should I even be on this stage, or should I be talking to this person, and why am I cold calling? I don't even know what I'm doing. Talk to me about how rebellious relates to imposter syndrome.
Oh man, imposter syndrome to me makes me think like, oh, somebody else is doing it better than me, right? Or like, oh, someone else is better than anything that I am doing. And I think that there's no shortcut to solving that in your life. I am by no means somebody who hasn't experienced that. I experience it every day, right? There are lots of others in the industry who have tried to create a lane for themselves doing what I do. And there are some who have been successful and some who haven't. But the one thing I can tell you with the rebellious aspect, to tie that in somehow, is there are others that are doing it and they're doing it well, right? But I know with full confidence that there is not a single person out there that is doing what we do and what my team does for our clients. And I think the confidence aspect of that ties into why I'm so confident being able to say, no, I don't agree when I'm standing on a stage or when I'm, doing anything and vocally saying otherwise to what the general public or population might be saying, if that makes sense.
It makes 100% sense. Here's the interesting part about how we relate. What we do is no one's doing what you're doing. There's no question about it. I mean, there's some people out there that may have been there before you that have come in after you, but no one's doing what you're doing and how you're doing it. And everything is proven and documented. With what I'm doing with modern agents, et cetera, it's proven and documented. No one is doing the in-person stuff we're doing, and just just to give me a little just to plug myself here. Where the heck is it, Dave? There it is. We do an in-person thing every day with our agents, and we're doing it every week. And I invite new agents, experienced agents. And to me, it is a little rebellious simply because I'm saying, look, your business isn't great right now. You're complaining about the market. Here's something that we can do. Here's something that you can do to build your business. And don't give a shit about what anybody else is doing. And I don't actually. And we actually work really hard on setting the appointments and getting people through the imposter syndrome piece of all reluctance, utilizing, don't care, right? When we actually do get into a lot of things that you've talked about, and and it works. It's just different than anybody else is doing. I mean, beyond the method, for one, is it's got to be. I mean, you've been doing it for a while, and it's got to be the most impactful process for social media engagement out there. Because if you ask anybody what social media engagement is, so yeah, I post and I comment when people comment on it. Okay, great. So when you post, that's really good. I'm really happy that you're posting. And then when someone tries to message you, you've got an automatic response. Thanks so much for getting to me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Typically, we get back to you within 3 hours. Well, you know what? It's probably been 3 to 4 to 5, 6 weeks and months for a lot of people that I've messaged. You still haven't gotten back to me. But anyway, that's beside the point. The point I'm making is that the process that Michelle works on and that I've been coached on with her works. It's just plain and simple, and it's just it is different, but different is not necessarily what rebellious is all about, right? There's just a confidence factor. And how does one is there a way to build that confidence, the way to say, I don't really give a shit what you say, I'm still going to do this way? Is there a way to build that up, Michelle?
Therapy. You want my honest answer? Go to counseling. But no, confidence has been, I think, just people in your life, right? Who you surround yourself with, and the people that you sit at the table with, figuratively, I think has been a huge part for me. And for me, honestly, that comes with trusting my faith. Some of my closest friends in the world, we can sit and talk about what God wants us to do. And it really helps calm our nerves, and it helps calm the voices in our heads that a lot of times creeps in. The imposter syndrome aspect is a huge part of that. And if it's not faith for you, that's fine. That's a big part of who I am and who I want to be portrayed as, a woman of faith. But the people who sit at your table, if you've never read that, just Google it. Like, who sits in your front row is the phrase. But if you just Google who sits in your front row, it's this big giant paragraph that was from a book, and I can't remember the name of the book right now, and I'm terrible for not remembering that. But it talks about how important those people are, because if they're not people who, one, can tell you you're doing something wrong, that's not the right person. Two, if they're not someone that's going to cheer for you when shit's bad for them, but it's good for you, they're not the right people. So it's kind of a formula, right, of who all the combination of who those people might be. Because I can tell you, like, my husband is not going to sugarcoat anything. He's not going to tell me a good job if I didn't do a good job. He's also going to tell me when something's wrong. And he's going to tell me when I'm being not who I should be. Right. And he's also going to call me out on my bullshit. And I think that's an important person to have in your front row for sure. And then you're also going to have the people who, like Grant, for example, as one of my 6, I would say. He's also going to ask really, really hard questions. And sometimes I get really frustrated with him when I feel like I don't know how to answer the questions. But that's his whole point, right? Is he's asking me those questions on purpose because it's designed to get something out of me. So where the confidence comes from is listening to your intuition and who you choose to sit at the table with you. And knowing when that person needs to be removed, if there is ever that time, right? And trusting that saying goodbye to a relationship that's not serving you or serving your goals anymore is actually a great thing, not a bad thing.
a couple of things there that I love is first, let's talk about coaching, and we're both not afraid to hire that coach. I mean, we both work with Grant, and one of the main things that I've learned from him and through other coaches I worked with, the real good ones are the ones that ask the questions and just don't tell you shit, you know. And that's
all the time.
What's that?
He says, stay curious all the time.
Right. I mean, asking the questions. And let's just take what we get from our coaches. Coach is supposed to ask you questions. A teacher is one that tells you what to do. A coach is who makes you better at what you already know. There's a lot of different definitions you can throw in there, but the coach is the one that makes you realize the skills you have, or the skills you don't have, the skills you need to work on, and helps you work on. But he also enhances what you already know. If you look at, I like to use the New England Patriots really quickly, and I know we're up on time. What I like to do is say, okay, you got Belichick who's the head coach, and you got all the other little guys in there telling them what to do. Belichick puts it all together, and that's what a coach does. Michelle, I want to thank you so much for being on today. I want to thank you so much for joining the broadcast. I wish we had more time, but we are kind of limited. And tell me, if you were a real estate agent or a loan officer out there, what would be one thing you'd tell them to do right now?
One thing I would tell you to do right now, stop responding and engaging with emojis, and that's it. That's one. Start asking more questions with your engagement. And then two, I would say you need to focus on why you're not doing things, right? So I talk to people all the time who want to buy my program, and they say, well, Michelle, that's a lot of money. Damn right it is. How much money do you want to make in your career, right? Are you willing to make the investment? Either are or aren't. But sitting there and
Hello? We lost you. Are you there? We just lost contact with Michelle. I'm not sure if she's still there. Michelle, I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, I think we lost Michelle. Are you there? So anyway, everybody, I want to thank everybody for coming today. We have Michelle on the screen. We lost connection. I apologize for that. But anyway, this has been Real Estate Talk TGIF. Let me just get my head in the screen here. This has been Real Estate Talk TGIF. And we have been having great conversation with Michelle Berman. I want to thank everybody for coming today. And remember that if you are interested in building your business on a regular basis, don't be afraid. Join the modernagentexperience.com next Wednesday. This is a live in-person event. I look forward to seeing everybody there. If you have any questions, let me know. Next week, we got another great broadcast coming for you. We have the Kevin Ward, who is the owner and founder of Yes Masters. And if you know anything about this real estate business, you know that Kevin Ward is at the top of coaching for real estate agents here. And Michelle is back, and there she is. Yes.
No idea what just happened. Sorry.
That's okay, Michelle. I just have two quick things, and then I was hoping you'd come back. Number one, and most importantly, what can I do to help you grow your business?
Oh gosh, me personally, just spread the word. That's it.
Got it.
As I call.
Oh, frozen again. Okay, are you there? So anyway, in case she comes back on, Michelle, get in the hat. And this is the one she's getting. So we're looking forward to sending this out to Michelle. Not sure if it's us or her.
Oh,
there she is. Is she back?
My gosh.
I don't know. But anyway, so just before I lose you again, here it is. It's coming your way. The hat that everybody, the right people that come on the broadcast get. I hope, Michelle, I hope you enjoyed your time with the broadcast. Thank you so much. If you can stay on for 2 seconds as we go out, please do. Thank you, everybody. Next week, we got Kevin Ward. Hit the video.